You are listening to the Kiosk Marketplace podcast. Castus is a game-changing antimicrobial coating that is applied during manufacturing to create touchscreens with 24/7 germ-free protection for life. Designed with our patented Castus Intelligent Surface technology, our glass coating solves the problem of touchscreens spreading germs and how to prevent this. Visit castus.com today to learn more.
Welcome, and be ready for a very important podcast on a very important topic, and that is sanitation of kiosk touchscreens. Very important as the kiosk industry continues to expand at a very rapid rate. How exposed are consumers to infection from bacteria on kiosk surfaces? It's a very important topic, and we're going to be talking with John Brown, the founder and CEO of Castus, a company that provides an antimicrobial coating that creates touchscreens with 24/7 germ-free protection for life. It's a very timely topic. Just this week, Kiosk Marketplace reported that the state of California approved a variance to a frozen dessert kiosk manufacturer for the use of a specific sanitation product for cleaning and sanitizing. This is a very important development as the state of California has very strict rules on all types of food service kiosks. So pretty soon, this podcast is going to begin. We're going to learn a lot more about 24/7 germ-free touchscreens, protection for life.
Castus is a game-changing antimicrobial coating applied during manufacturing to create touchscreens with 24/7 germ-free protection for life. Our patented liquid coating technology is invisible and durable for the life of the touchscreen. Visit castus.com today to learn more.
Welcome to 24/7 germ-free touchscreens, protection for life. Today we're here to discuss an important issue for the self-service kiosk industry, ensuring that customer touchscreens are safe for customers at all times. This is a particularly important issue as kiosks are expanding rapidly today across many industries. Our goal for this podcast is to present the problem of touchscreens spreading germs, the solution, and how we can enhance our customers' business. I'm Elliot Maris, the editor of Kiosk Marketplace. Joining me today for this podcast is John Brown, the founder and CEO of Castus, a company that provides an antimicrobial coating that creates touchscreens with 24 germ-free protection for life. John formed Castus in 2014 after working closely with the development team for about 10 years. John, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks for having us.
Well, John, tell us, how serious is the risk of infection from touchscreens?
I guess it's a multi-pronged question, that one. There's an obvious risk to the end users of the kiosks as we're almost forced in our daily lives now to use touchscreens to interact, to gain access to buildings, to order foods, to interact with medical devices and so on, and obviously our mobile phones and tablets that we're very much dependent on them now. And the nature of these screens in themselves, because they're backlit, they're warm, they just form a really nice incubator for bacteria to form. I think we've all seen the recent studies to show that there's more bacteria on a typical touchscreen or a kiosk than there is on a toilet seat, which I think people generally find pretty shocking. But there are obvious risks then to the end users where these screens are touched by multiple people. In some cases, hundreds, if not thousands of people in a day. Some of those people may be carrying more bacteria than others, or some more sanitary than others. And the risk is pretty obvious then in terms of the spread of bacteria, harmful bacteria such as E. coli, MRSA, and their fecal matters and various other nasties associated with these bacteria. I think the other side of the question then really is the companies who are actually spending millions and if not billions on the rollout of touchscreen kiosks and self-ordering terminals, is that there is a commercial risk and there's certainly a reputational risk in terms of potential damage where end users become aware and become more educated that there is a problem, a real problem that the company isn't doing something about. So I think to answer the question, it's a serious risk, but it's one that the end user perhaps isn't as aware of as they should be. But it's funny, we've interviewed younger people, maybe in their early teens, and they would certainly be a lot more aware of the risk and the grime and the germs on these screens than maybe people of our generation. So it's something, I think it's an issue that's bubbling away that the end product kiosk users are certainly going to have to address and take seriously in the near term.
Okay. Well, tell me, what industries do you think are most at risk from microbial infection from touchscreens?
I think there are some very obvious ones, healthcare obviously being the number one, where I think we're all seeing it, hospitals now that you actually register yourself to access the hospital, but by your very nature then you're touching a screen that sick people are touching and they've no alternative but to touch them. So that's an obvious breeding ground for bacteria. But also we find food ordering kiosks, self-ordering kiosks, which are certainly becoming the norm in terms of fast food outlets, where you basically, you touch a screen that hundreds of people have touched before you that is more than likely covered in bacteria. You then sit down, eat your food with the hands you've just touched the screen with, and that in its very nature is, it's inherently risky. There's a potential of damage to the people that are serious health risk to the people that are eating the food. So it's something I think people aren't aware of. But there are other, transport, aviation, office environments, public buildings. It's really anywhere where there's a high traffic throughput, where there's a lot of people touching these screens. And as I said earlier, they are such a breeding ground because they're warm and backlit that bacteria really enjoy them.
Well, I don't want to get overly technical, but how exactly do touchscreens spread germs?
I think, as I said, the environment is perfect for the spread of bacteria. Basically, once a bacteria inhabits a surface, it just wants to multiply and to basically take over that surface. And a typical bacteria will double in terms of its number every 20 minutes. And that can be accelerated significantly if there are environmental benefits to the bacteria to grow in terms of food and heat and light and so on. So I think it's a perfect storm, I guess, in terms of the bacteria can just so easily spread on these screens, but then spread from screen to screen. When people are touching these screens, they then take away the bacteria on their fingers. They touch another screen, they touch their phone, they touch whatever surface, and that surface then is becoming prone to infection risk as well.
Now, is the infection actually traceable back to the touchscreen kiosk itself?
It's not, because I think a lot of these bacteria, harmful bacteria, would be prevalent. They wouldn't have any key markers that would help to identify them back to one particular place that they came from. That would be quite difficult to do. I think you'd find most of these touchscreens, if they're tested, would have several bacteria present on them. But it's very difficult, if not impossible, to tell where they came from, how they got onto the screen.
So tell us, how exactly is the Castus antimicrobial coating applied?
Good question. Yeah, it's our product, and I guess it's one of the key differentiator our technology from maybe some in the past that were seen as temporary coatings that were sprayed on or applied in situ. Ours, importantly, is applied in factory setting during the manufacturing of the kiosk itself or the manufacturing of the glass. So our coating is sintered onto the top layer of the glass surface at very high temperature in the region of 500 to 600 degrees Celsius. It then forms an immobilized ceramic tin film on the top layer of the glass surface that is super scratch resistant, that's hydrophilic, making it easy clean, and that obviously has antimicrobial benefits as well. Because it's factory applied, it's applied in a controlled setting, it's quality controlled, and it's then proven to be effective for the life of the product. But it's a relatively easy or straightforward coating to apply for glass companies in particular, because they typically will apply coatings to their products to add value.
So how does the coating actually kill the bacteria and prevent exposure to germs?
Sure. It's the process itself is a photophysical process where it uses light and moisture in the air to generate oxygen radicals that attack and disrupt the bacteria cell wall. And essentially, I guess you could see it at a microscopic level that our coating is bashing, almost with a baseball bat, it's bashing the bacteria. And I think that's a key differentiator with our technology, that it's not poisoning the bacteria, so you're not at risk of developing bacteria that are immune to poisons, and then you end up with super bugs. Ours is a process that is permanent. It's always working. It's using pretty much what we consider an infinite resource in terms of moisture in the air and light. And as I say, because it's physical, it's one that is unique and has a number of unique benefits.
So how has the effectiveness of the coating solution been tested?
We've tested ourselves during the years of development. We had worked closely with a university in Ireland to test the effectiveness of the product for various different ways. Since that then, we have worked with external ISO accredited testing facilities globally, where they've tested for antimicrobial performance, for durability, for life cycle testing, and we have various clients at the moment who perform their own testing, both in-house in their research and development facilities, but also they would use external testing facilities to accredit and to prove that the product is working. So it's a very important step, and it's something that we're very comfortable with. And we've performed testing across, myriad of different ISO standards, everything from ISO 27447, which is a photocatalytic testing standard, which is very difficult to achieve, which we can comfortably do, right through to testing to prove that our coating doesn't affect or harm human skin.
Now, does the Castus coating have any negative visual impact?
No, and I think as well that's a key message. That there may be some concern from glass or kiosk manufacturers that the actual look of the end product isn't affected, and it's not, because our coating is so thin. You're talking it's pretty much 20 to 30 nanometers thick, that it can't be seen. It's invisible. So there are no negative sides to applying.
And does the coating work at night?
It does. it obviously uses light to work at its full power, but it will work at a reduced level in darkness as well, which again is unique. And it's essentially, you could see it maybe as a battery that it charges up then during exposure to light and to moisture. So if it has reduced levels of light, the efficacy is reduced somewhat, but it's still working at night.
Now, you did mention about the application in the manufacturing process, but can existing touchscreens be retrofitted with the coating solution?
They can indeed. It's one project we're looking at with a client at the moment where touchscreen kiosks in situ, the glass screen is simply replaced with a new screen that has our coating on it. So that would be probably not unusual in the kiosk space where they need to retrofit or to repair the actual screens themselves, and that's certainly doable at pretty negligible cost.
So how many touchscreen manufacturers at this point are already using the coating?
There will be between 3 and 5 rolling out this year, at the end of Q3, early Q4, and a number then probably in the teens next year. So we focused on a variety of different markets. A lot of the manufacturing base for the industry and related industries would be Far Eastern based, China and Taiwan, but a lot of the innovation is happening in the US and in Europe. So we've partnered with a number of companies, and we've got some exciting launches to be announced in the coming weeks and months.
Now, does Castus have any kind of branding of touchscreens that will inform the users that the screen is protected?
That can be used and incorporated, and it's something we're encouraging. It's basically the glass touchscreen itself can be branded, so it's similar to maybe a tempering mark on a piece of glass, that it's a chalk mark that's actually sintered into the glass during the manufacturing process when Castus is applied. So that's certainly something that can be and hopefully will be rolled out in mass, that a customer can be aware that they're comfortably able to use the kiosk that has Castus inside.
Now, have any governmental bodies proposed or mandated sanitation requirements specific to touchscreens?
I think that's something that is imminent. We're aware of some hearsay at the moment that there are proposals both in the UK and Europe and US. Specific examples, though, we haven't got any yet. But it's certainly something we think that Castus should be a standard across the industry, and it's something that the end user and the consumer certainly needs to be comfortable with.
Well, you did mention earlier about the importance of sanitation in healthcare environments. So how have hospitals addressed contamination risks with touchscreens?
I think maybe there's an element of head in the sand. If I don't want to get myself in too much trouble here, but I think they need to step up and be braver about it. I think we do see some of the higher end private hospitals certainly aware of and addressing the issue. They perhaps aren't as aware as they might be that there is a solution like ours out there. But we do see them still using pretty, old-fashioned cleaning methods where maybe every few days or every week somebody rubs a damp cloth on the screen, which is really just compounding the issue. It's not helping. I think it's something that hospitals really need to be, governmental bodies to regulate and to mandate specific requirements.
Well, tell me, are there any non-government industry standards related to protection against infection risk for touchscreens?
Not that we're aware of. That's certainly something that we're hoping that the building awareness and the lobby and maybe the brave in the industry are certainly aware of it and are willing to innovate and to launch products with ourselves that address the issues. But I think the industry needs to, be aware and to adopt new technologies that will give them the abilities to address the issues.
At this year's Interactive Customer Experience Summit in Dallas, there was a panel discussion on this topic, and there was a individual in the room, a quick-serve restaurant professional, who asked about touchscreen cleaning solutions. And when that professional had asked their touchscreen service vendor about this issue, they were recommended to use peroxide on the screen. What is the Castus view on this?
I guess our view on that would be negative from a number of fronts, and without being biased, the use of peroxides and hydrogen peroxides in the environment is enormously harmful. They're very toxic and aggressive chemicals that really shouldn't be used where possible. I would think they're probably not good they're certainly not good for the people who are being told to use them on the screen, but I wouldn't imagine they're very good for the actual screens themselves either. Peroxide and electronics don't tend to be good bedfellows. I think it's a short-term, maybe a defensive answer that just needed a bit more creativity and maybe a more brave approach to use a newer and a much more effective solution.
You did indicate the need for more awareness on this issue. To what extent do you think there has been actual coverage of touchscreen contamination in the consumer media? Has there been any at all?
I think there's been some heavily publicized, certainly on this side of the water, some media stories about fecal matter being found on particular restaurant touchscreens that were, pretty shocking, that were certainly covered widely by the media and creating a bit of a very bad reputational issue for the particular restaurant in question. I think it's something that the media are becoming more aware of. We're certainly seeing a great awareness of the issue around superbugs and antibiotic-resistant superbugs and the reasons that they're becoming more prevalent. So there is a growing awareness. I still think it's slower than it needs to be, and we're hoping to help educate the industry and the wider public in terms of the issues and the potential solutions.
I would guess that there will be a growing awareness in the media as the number of restaurants out there that are installing self-order kiosks is increasing at a very rapid pace right now. Self-serve kiosks as a whole in many industries are also growing rapidly, so I think it's fair to say there's going to be greater awareness to this issue, and everybody in the industry certainly needs to be up to speed on the need for sanitation. So I think we've come close to the end of our time limit today, John, but are there any other points you'd like to address?
No, I think, Elliot, I think we've covered a lot there. Thanks for your questions, and I certainly welcome any questions separately. If anyone wants to contact me through an email or phone directly, I'm more than willing to take any calls or questions. And thank you again for including Castus and for interviewing us today.
Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for joining 24 Germ-Free Touchscreens Protection for Life. And John, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Elliot. Have a good day.